Hey guys, so this is the next video in our tutorial series about developing actions in LifeLeech, and I want to talk quickly about animations in actions with you. So I hope you know something about animations in Unreal. If not, check out the tutorial videos on the Unreal Engine YouTube channel, like the live training videos about animations. They're great. Look up blend spaces, blueprints, and anim montages, and state machines as well. So you know about the basics of animations, and I now quickly show you our additions we made for the actions and how we handle animations on the actions, which is important to understand because obviously on most actions, on most abilities, animation and what to do in the ability in the action go hand in hand. So you want to do specific game mechanics in specific on specific points in the animation. So, or you even want to change the animation while you're performing the action. And I quickly show you how this is done in our action system. So first of all, let's take a look at our character. So we have an anim blueprint here for our character, and here's an animation folder, and there are like some animations and also animation montages. Now, if you use animations for actions, mostly you will use montages. You can also do animations with state machines and in the anim blueprint, but we want to keep the animation blueprint and actions separated as much as possible, so you don't need to make changes in two places, but you can have all your changes and your additions you make inside of your action blueprint, and you don't need to like change the anim blueprint if you change something with your action. So the anim blueprint should cover basic stuff like locomotion. I can show you. I can just open it up. It's relatively simple, as you can see. Simple event graph, and here's our anim graph, which is also pretty simple. We have state machine for locomotion, and we use the default slot for any montages you want to play. So, and the default slot will be blended together with the locomotion pose. So we have, on default, we have walking and animation montages for our actions blended together, and they're playing at the same time. If you don't want this, this can be disabled with no move anim, which we will see if we go into the action and set things up. So this is very simple right now, and this will grow more complex over time, but you probably don't even need to do anything in here if you only make actions. So if there's something fundamentally missing, then yes, you should implement it here, but we should first talk about it, if you need it, how to implement it, and then it should be available to all the actions to be used. For example, like disabling movement animations like locomotion. Okay. Now let's start with creating a new action, like we did already. We need to make a blueprint on action base BP. Select. We call this like test anim action. Okay, this. We call this here anim test. We call this here anim action. Okay, this. We call this here anim test. We call this here anim action. Okay, this. We call this here anim action. Okay, this. We call this here anim test. We call this here anim action. Okay, this. We call this here anim action. Okay, this. We call this here anim action. Okay, this. We call this here anim test. We Well, let's remove looping. I don't know. Let's keep looping. Doesn't really matters. Let's keep it. So we don't need to target. Actually, we can let this all on default. What we need, like always, is an on start. So now from here we want to play an animation montage, and Unreal Engine has simple ways to do this. There are two ways. One way is you can get the initiator pawn. You can cast this to a character, cast to character, and you can do play on a montage here. And here you would select it, and you can set the play rate. This is how fast it should play, and you could specify a start section. The problem with this is we can't react to any events happening inside of the animation, to any notifies. You can only, if you play it like this, you can only react to notifies inside of the animation blueprint. So that's not suited for our actions. Another way is just play play montage. This one. This is pretty nice because, as you can see, we can react to events. Also to notify begin and notify end, which is very important, as we will see a little bit later. But we have a utility function which wraps around play montage or play animate, which adds even more functionality and is the best way to play an animate inside of an action. So you still could use this, it's completely valid, but then you need to take care of some things yourself, which the utility function does take care of. So, and this function is play action animate. So let's talk about this. Here are events. This will fire if the action is completed, if it starts to blend out, if it's interrupted before completion, if a notify begins, and if a notify ends. You select your montage you want to play. The skeletal mesh. Now, you don't actually need to input a skeletal mesh here. If you don't input a skeletal mesh, it will automatically use the initiator pawn. If you could also get the initiator pawn and cast it to character and get the mesh component and put this in here, but then it doesn't know that you're working with the initiator, and it does some automatic functions if it knows that you're working with the initiator. So if you want to play the action on the character which started the action, like if you want to play the animate on the character which started the action, you just don't input anything in here. If you want to play the montage on anything else, you can still use this, but you need to input the mesh, the skeletal mesh component of this actor. So play rate, again, how fast it should play. 1.0 is 1 times. 2.0 would be twice as fast. 0.5 would be half as fast, so it would take twice as long to complete. Starting position or starting section. Starting position is in seconds. Now we have replication method here, and this, some people may be very happy to see this because this takes care of replication. This will play the montage on other clients, and we are running this on the server start event, but if you run this on the client, it will ignore replication method, so don't care about this. This is only taken into consideration if run on the server. The clients do not replicate this to the server, but we will talk about replication in another video. I just want to notice that this is replication ready, so you don't need to care about, how do I play it on the client if I play it on the server. On default, it's at multicast exclude loading client, which means it plays on all clients and the server, but not on the client who actually initiated the action, which is very important, and I will explain this if we go into the multiplayer video, into the replication video, and you will understand why. Auto revert means if the action completes, the montage will be stopped. So you can remove this and it will not stop, and if you just have this checked, it will stop, and you don't need to remember, oh, I need to stop the montage when my action finishes. For example, you start a looping montage which runs infinitely, and then you want to stop it at the end of your action. Then this is very helpful. Even if not, you can just keep it checked. So we need a montage now to play, and I will show you how we do it. So you go to animation and animation montage. You select the skeleton you want to make the montage for. We call it, I always prefix them with AM, so they're very easy to find. AM for animation montage. And let's make this test anim. So, open it up. Now we see our character here. We see all the animations the character has here. And this is our montage. Here are some settings we are now ignoring. They are very useful, but you can look them up in a different tutorial, because this is all basic Unreal stuff. And I don't want to explain it if it's already explained very well in other tutorials. So, right. So we need to add an animation to our montage. So let's how was it called? Let's see. Wasn't it swing? Oh, slash. Right. Let's add the slash, because it's a nice one to work with. It's just an attack pretty much. It's a slash with the sword, with the weapon. So okay. Now that's nice, and that's already working. We can check it out. We save it. AM test anim is the name. We go to our not testability. Test anim action, and now we just select it. AM underscore test anim was the name. There it is. We select it here. Compile and we save. So now we don't want to complete our action now right away, but we want to complete it when the montage completes, obviously. And we use the onComplete and the onInterrupted events. So onInterrupted is if the montage has been stopped before it completed, pretty much. So we just drag a node out here, and we say custom, and it says add custom event. And then we have an event node here. We can rename it to, for example, attack and, for example, or let's complete it. So we have the same name here and here. This is a reference to the anim montage. If you want to, if you use multiple play anim montages and you want to route them to the same event, you can use this to switch between them pretty much. But if you use more than one, you can make an event for each one. You don't have to route them all to the same. Okay. And from here we want to call complete. So our action completes once the animation completes. And we also want to do this on interrupt. Right. We could also now, if our animatic fails to play for some reason, we can get the return value, which is true if it completed, if it successfully played, or false if it didn't play. And we could do a branch, and from the false we go to complete, because this will yeah, if we can't play the animatic, we complete our action so it doesn't lock up. We could do this to keep things simple. Let's just remove this. Oh, also something I have forgotten in the other videos, but I said in the first video you should always call the parent function here to be safe. So, and this should play our action, this should play our montage, and if it's completed or if it's interrupted, it should complete the action. So let's test it. Play, single player. Okay, here we are. Oh, right. We forgot to add the action to the character. Test player character. Possible actions. There it is. Plus something with anim. Test anim action. There it is. Compile, save, play. Single player. So 0. Anim test. There it is. G. So, and yeah, as you can see, it's working. It plays our attack animation, and we can move around and it's blended together with the walk. So, okay, very nice. But we also want to react now to events within the animation, and for this we need to go into the animatic and we need to set up notifies. So let's just pause this. For example, wait, where are the notifies? Sections, notifies. Okay, here are our notifies. So one thing which would be very important for the action, we want to have a moment in time where we actually check if we hit something and cause damage to it. So we want to have an event, and this should be at a good position in the animation so that it looks like that we're hitting something. Like if we do a hit test here, then at the start, then damage number will pop up even before the character has swung. I don't know what's the past form of swing, but have swing his sword. So we check for a good time, like somewhere around here. Let's take this. If the animation is in this state, this pose, we want to check if there is an enemy and if we hit it. So we do add notify. Now it's very important to not go to new notify. These kind of notifiers will only work inside of the animation blueprint, but you need to go here to montage notify. Very important. So There it is. And you can see the red line here is where we are currently in our sequence. So we drag it onto there. So it will fire when we are at this point in the animation. And now we call it, for example, hit test, because we want to do a hit test there. Right. So, nicely done. Another thing, we add a new track, so to keep better a better overview of things. Another thing is your action might have different phases, and you could multiple montages for this, but this has disadvantages. It's great to use one montage with all your different phases you have. Like, for example, you have a power-up phase where the character charges power before it unleashes it, and after that you may have a recover phase. You can have any number of phases inside of your action, and I just quickly show you how to set this up. You would also use the notifiers with that, and this is why I made the second track here. So, for example, go to the beginning. We make add notify state, and we use montage notify window. And this has a start and an end. So we could also use the montage notifies if we only need one point to say, okay, now phase 2 begins, now phase 3 begins, but maybe you have overlapping phases, right, or transition phases or something which overlap. So this, we get an event when it starts and we get an event when it ends. So this is like from the beginning. Let's call this power up phase. And where's our animation? Like it does, our character draws the sword back to power up, and here he starts to swing. So around somewhere here the power up is finished. So it would be around here. And then we make another one, montage notify window, which we put here. And yeah, we will see. And we call this strike phase, where the actual strike is happening of the character. And the strike goes to around here. And then add notify window. For the rest of the animation we have a recovery phase. So this is where it goes back into its original pose. So now we have 3 different phases, a power-up phase, strike phase, and a recovery phase, as well as a point where we do a hit test. Great stuff. Save. Also another thing, you may want to have, let's add another track. This may be an action that is cancelable by the player, so the player can cancel it after he started the action. So in most cases you only want to have the player give the player a short window to be able to cancel the action. You don't want the player to cancel it, for example, after our hit has happened. So cancel it here, and then he is skipping all this time and can start right away. So for example, you want the player to be able to cancel the action only in the power-up phase. So at the end of the power-up phase we could make a new montage notify, and we give it the name action cancel PONR. And PONR means point of no return. And this is a predefined notify name, which we use internally. If the action system encounters this notify, it will disable the cancel ability for the player. It can't cancel the action anymore. You can also do it manually, but this is a nice way where you don't need to change anything in the action blueprint, but you can have it here on your montage. So since we have this, let's go back to our test anim action, and we keep this. But now we can react to notify begin and notify end, and we just drag this out, and we again make custom event, and we call it, for example, attack notify begin. Now for notifiers which are not a window, only the begin is called, no end. So again, we have reference to our anim montage. Since we only play one, we know with what montage we are dealing with, so we can ignore it. And we have a notify name here, and this is the name we defined in our animation montage. So from here we could do, for example, a switch, and the switch allows us to react to different notify names now. So default is for anything we have no output pin for. So, but usually we want to do nothing because it's something unexpected for us. So we add a new pin, and we can go to the details here, and we can call it now the same way we called our notify in the anim montage. For example, hit test. Okay, so if the hit test happens, which is in the middle of the animation, the code that we put up here, our blueprint code that we construct here, will be called. So we can test if there's an enemy, we can cause damage to it, and so on. Just to demonstrate that it actually works, we do a simple print here. Hit test, and we make it for 10 seconds, compile, save, run it, single player, and 0G. So as you can see, it says hit test here. Yeah, right. So that's basically how it works. And we can obviously add more in here, like our power up phase, for example, and our strike phase, and our recovery phase. And now we can do anything we want if this phase it begins. The same thing is on the end. It's basically the same thing. Add custom event. Oops. It's basically the same, but it's called if the end of the window is reached. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all you have to know about action animations for now. Maybe one thing. There is, let me just delete all of this. There is a utility function to disable the movement animation. For example, for the dash, where you want only one montage to play and not interfere, not blend together with locomotion, you would disable the move animation. And this disable character move anim. You call this. You could input a character reference here. If you don't input a character reference, it automatically uses the initiator pawn. So this will disable any locomotion animation, any movement animation while your action is playing, and it will automatically revert back, so it will automatically enable it again after your action is finished. If you want to enable it yourself, there is an enable character move anim. So yeah, that's about it. So you have seen how to set up different phases and how to branch inside of your action blueprint by these phases. And in the next video, we're going to look a little bit at multiplayer. So thanks for listening and see you then.